They said it would only be 3 months. Just while we get the house ready to sell, Mom. Sarah smiled, that tight professional smile she'd perfected in law school, the one that meant the conversation was over before it started. David carried my suitcase into the apartment like he was doing me a favor, setting it down with theatrical gentleness. You'll love it here. They have mahjong on Thursdays, other Mandarin speakers, activities. I watched through the window as their Tesla pulled out of the parking lot, smooth and silent. Sarah didn't look back, but I knew something was wrong the moment I'd seen the lease. My name wasn't on it. Sarah's was. The apartment was pleasant enough. Clean beige walls, generic furniture, the kind of place designed to feel temporary. Second floor, end of the hall, with a view of the parking lot and a drainage ditch beyond. They'd picked a unit far from the common areas, I noticed, far from where people gathered. I didn't unpack everything that first night. Old habits. I kept my important documents in a locked accordion folder, had for 40 years since immigrating, since learning that in America, you are only as real as your paperwork. Birth certificate, naturalization papers, property deed, stock certificates, 30 years of meticulously organized tax records, all of it tucked into my suitcase, under the bed. I tried calling Sarah the next morning. It rang 4 times, then voicemail. I tried again at lunch, voicemail. By evening, I called David. He picked up on the first ring. Hey, Martha, everything okay? When are you coming to take me to see the house? There was a pause, longer than it should have been. Oh, we're still in the demolition phase. Total mess. You wouldn't want to see it right now. Dust everywhere, but I'd like to discuss the renovation plans. Another pause. Sarah's handling all that. She'll call you when there's something to see. Then he hung up. I sat in the generic armchair and did what I'd always done when numbers didn't add up. I made a list. House purchased $1,998. Market value approximately $2.1 million based on recent sales in the neighborhood. Mortgage paid off 2015. Property tax current. No liens. Renovation budget discussed, never finalized. Timeline vague. No contractor names given. No permits mentioned. And now, no access. That Friday, I took the shuttle bus to the senior center 2 miles away. They had computers. The young volunteer, couldn't have been more than 19, showed me how to search property records online. I'd been an accountant for 43 years, but I'd retired before the internet consumed everything. Learning to navigate websites felt like learning to read all over again, slow and humbling. I typed in my address. The listing loaded. My house, professional photos I'd never authorized, staged furniture I didn't recognize, listed by David Chen, Coldwell banker. Price, $2.1 million. Status, active for 12 days. My hands started shaking. The volunteer noticed. Ma'am, are you okay? Can I get you water? I closed the browser, logged out, walked to the bus stop with my vision tunneling, that feeling you get when your blood pressure spikes and the world narrows to a pinpoint. I had my medication in my purse. I took it dry, swallowing hard. On the bus ride back, I calculated. If they'd listed the house 12 days ago, that meant they'd started this before they moved me out. The renovation story was a lie from the beginning. The 3 months timeline, fabricated. The apartment, a holding cell. I thought about calling Sarah, demanding answers. But I'd spent 4 decades preparing tax returns for people who lied to the IRS. I knew that confrontation without evidence was just noise. Back in my apartment, I opened my suitcase. The accordion folder was gone. I tore through everything, checked under the mattress, in the closet, inside the oven, the freezer, the toilet tank, places I'd hidden money during the Cultural Revolution as a child, and never forgot. Nothing. 40 years of documentation vanished. I sat on the carpet and did something I hadn't done since my husband died. I let myself cry, but only for 5 minutes. Then I got up and made another list. What they took: house, property deed, stock certificates, tax records, birth certificate. What they didn't know I had: naturalization papers. I kept a certified copy in my safety deposit box at Bank of America. Always had 2 copies of everything. Old habit. Emergency cash fund. $8,000 in a savings account David didn't know existed. Opened it in 1985 and never mentioned it. Called it my earthquake money. Network, former clients, some now retired, some still filing. 30 years of relationships. Memory, photographic for numbers, could still recite tax code sections from 1987. Every stock transaction I'd ever made, every property assessment. Monday morning, I took the bus to the bank. The safety deposit box was still accessible. Sarah hadn't thought to freeze it because she didn't know it existed. Inside, the copies of my key documents, an old jewelry box with my mother's jade bracelet, and a stack of cash, $3,000. Combined with my secret account, I had $11,000. Enough. I withdrew $500 in cash, took the bus to the police station. The officer at the front desk looked bored. I need to report a crime. My daughter has stolen my property documents and is attempting to sell my house without my consent. He slid a form across the counter without looking up. This is a civil matter, ma'am. You'll need to handle it through the courts. It's theft. She took my documents. Did she break into your home? No. She has a key. Then it's a civil matter, family dispute. But my house is being sold. Do you own the house? Yes. Is your name on the deed? Yes. But she took the deed. So file a civil suit. We don't handle family financial disagreements. He turned to the next person in line. I stood there for a moment, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, the smell of burnt coffee and institutional cleaning supplies. The officer wasn't going to help. The system wasn't designed for this. I folded the form and put it in my purse. Fine. I'd document the attempt, even if it led nowhere. At the senior apartment, I started noticing things. The front desk kept visitor logs. I smiled at the security guard, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a wedding ring. His name tag said Miguel. I brought him tea the next morning, jasmine. The good kind from the Chinese market I'd taken 2 buses to reach. He accepted it with surprise. You didn't have to do that, Mrs. Chen. I know, but you're here late shifts. You work hard. We talked. He had 3 kids, 2 in college. Worked security to pay the tuition. By the end of the week, he trusted me. Mrs. Chen, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but your son-in-law has been coming here when you're out, signing in his family, going up to your apartment. When? Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I'm at the senior center. Miguel nodded. Last time was Thursday. He had a box when he left. My documents. David had come back for anything he'd missed. I felt the anger rise, sharp and clean. How many times? 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Can I see the log? He hesitated. I'm not supposed to. Miguel, I think my family is stealing from me. I need evidence. He pulled out the binder. Let me photograph the pages with the senior center. Volunteer had taught me to use the camera on the flip phone Sarah had given me. The one she said was easier for seniors, the one I now realized was a way to control my access. That afternoon, I went back to the senior center. Used the computer to search conservatorship, elder abuse, property fraud. The legal terms swam together at first, dense and technical, but I'd spent 40 years decoding tax law. This was just another system. I learned that in California, someone could petition for conservatorship if they claimed you were unable to care for yourself, that a conservator could sell your property, access your accounts, make medical decisions, that the hearing required evidence of incapacity, that I needed a lawyer. I called 6 lawyers from the senior center. 5 told me they didn't handle conservatorships, or that it would cost a retainer I didn't have. The 6th was a woman named Lisa Park. She listened to my whole story without interrupting. Mrs. Chen, this is going to be complicated. Do you have any proof of competency? Any recent medical records? I had a physical 3 months ago. Clean bill of health. Get me those records. Also, We need to check if a conservatorship petition has been filed. If it has, we have limited time to respond. How much do you charge? My normal retainer is $5,000. I have that. She paused. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to be honest with you. I heard your name before. You did my parents' taxes in the 90s. My father still talks about how you saved him $15,000 and taught him to organize his receipts. I'll take your case for $3,000. If we win, we'll recover fees from the other side. I paid her from my earthquake money. She filed a motion the next day. And that's when I found out. Sarah had already filed for conservatorship 2 weeks ago, the same week they moved me to the apartment. The petition claimed I had dementia, that I was forgetting to take my medication, that I'd left the stove on twice, nearly causing fires, that I'd gotten lost in my own neighborhood. All lies. The hearing was in 3 weeks. Lisa was blunt. They'll bring a doctor who'll testify you're incapacitated. They'll have statements from your daughter about incidents we can't disprove because they never happened. We need to prove you're competent, and not just competent, sharp. Can you do that? I spent 43 years preparing tax returns for doctors, lawyers, small business owners. I can recite code sections from memory. I can calculate compound interest in my head. I still balance my checkbook to the penny. Good, because that's exactly what you're going to do in court. The next 2 weeks were preparation. Lisa coached me on testimony. We gathered evidence. My recent physical showing no cognitive decline, statements from the senior center staff, my perfectly organized financial records from my secret account, proof I'd been managing my own affairs. But we needed more. We needed someone on the inside. That's when Jake called. My grandson, 22, computer science major, the one who'd always been quiet at family dinners, who Sarah said was too busy with school to visit. Mrs. Chen, it's Jake. I need to talk to you. We met at a Starbucks near his campus. He looked nervous, guilty. I know what Mom and David are doing. I've known for a month. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure you'd believe me, and because I needed to document it first. He pulled out his phone, showed me recordings. Conversations between Sarah and David, planning how to claim I was incompetent, discussing the house sale, David coaching Sarah on what symptoms to report, my mother's voice, tired and stressed. I don't want to do this. And David, we don't have a choice. My firm's underwater. We need this cash or we lose everything. Why are you giving this to me? Because you taught me to organize my first tax return when I was 16. You showed me how to track every expense, keep every receipt. You said numbers don't lie, people do. And I realized my parents were lying. He slid the phone across the table. I made copies. Everything's on there. Time-stamped, dated. I'll testify if you need me to. The court hearing was in Judge Morrison's courtroom, downtown, 9th floor. Sarah sat at the plaintiff's table with her lawyer. An expensive suit and a briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She wouldn't look at me. David sat in the back row. Jake sat next to me. The judge was a woman in her 60s, reading glasses perched on her nose. Sarah's lawyer went first, called their doctor, a neurologist I'd never met. He testified about cognitive decline, typical in 70-year-old patients, about safety risks, about the need for supervised care. Called Sarah. She cried on the stand. Talked about finding me confused, forgetting conversations, the stove incidents. She was convincing. She'd always been a good lawyer. Then Lisa stood up for cross-examination. Miss Chen, when did these alleged stove incidents occur? Sarah gave specific dates. Lisa pulled out my utility bills. According to PG&E records, Mrs. Chen's gas usage on those dates was consistent with normal cooking. No spikes indicating extended stove use. No service calls. Furthermore, the stove in question is electric. Sarah faltered. I misspoke. It was the oven. The electric oven that you claim she left on, causing smoke? Yes. But there are no fire department reports. No smoke alarm activations. The building has centralized monitoring. If there had been smoke, it would have triggered an automatic alert. We've subpoenaed those records. There were none. Lisa moved methodically through each claim, dismantling them with documentation, with timestamps, with records Sarah hadn't thought to falsify. Then she called me to the stand. "Mrs. Chen, can you tell us your education and work history?" I graduated from UC Berkeley in 1976 with a degree in accounting. I worked for H&R Block for 5 years, then opened my own practice in 1981. I prepared tax returns for over 300 clients annually until my retirement in 2019. What did you do with your last tax return? Filed it electronically in March, on time, with all schedules and supporting documentation. Received my refund 6 weeks later. Mrs. Chen, can you recite Section 179 of the IRS tax code? Section 179 allows a taxpayer to elect to deduct the cost of certain types of property on their income taxes as an expense, rather than requiring the cost to be capitalized and depreciated. The maximum deduction for tax year 2023 is $1,160,000, with a phase-out threshold of $2,890,000. Lisa smiled. And Section 121? The home sale exclusion? I can exclude up to $250,000 of capital gain from the sale of my primary residence, provided I've owned and lived in the property for at least 2 of the 5 years prior to sale. Since I'm a single filer, that's my limit. Joint filers can exclude up to $500,000. I went on for 20 minutes, recited code sections, calculated examples in my head, explained depreciation schedules and alternative minimum tax calculations. The judge stopped writing and just listened. Then Lisa played Jake's recordings. The courtroom went silent except for David's voice explaining how to document false symptoms. Sarah's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled. It's relevant to the issue of credibility. When the recording ended, Judge Morrison removed her glasses. "Miss Chen, your daughter, do you have anything to say?" Sarah was crying. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. We were desperate. David's firm. We were going to lose our house, I thought. I thought if we could just sell and split the money." The judge cut her off. "You thought you could commit fraud, steal your mother's property, and claim she was incompetent to cover your tracks?" She looked at me. "Mrs. Chen, I'm denying the conservatorship petition. Furthermore, I'm ordering the immediate return of all documents and property taken from Mrs. Chen. I'm also referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. This hearing is adjourned." In the hallway, Sarah tried to approach me. "Mom, please." I grabbed Jake's arm for support. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." Lisa walked me out. "We'll file a civil suit for damages. The house sale will be canceled. You'll get everything back." "How long?" "A few weeks for the property, longer for the damages. Can I go home?" "Your home was never actually sold. The listing will be pulled today. I'll have a locksmith meet you there tomorrow." That night, I slept in the apartment one last time. In the morning, Jake drove me home in his old Honda. The lock was changed, but the locksmith was already there. He opened the door, handed me new keys. I stood in the entryway, looking at the staged furniture. The walls painted some trendy gray color I'd never chosen, but it was mine. I walked through each room. They'd packed my belongings into the garage. My books, my photos, my mother's dishes, everything labeled in boxes, ready to be discarded. I started unpacking. Jake helped. We worked in silence for a while. Then he said, "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. You did tell me, when it mattered." He paused. "Can I ask you something? Why keep the emergency funds secret? Why not just tell Aunt Sarah you had money?" "Because money makes people desperate, and desperate people make bad choices. If they'd known I had cash, they would have taken that too. Better to let them think they had everything while I kept what I needed to fight back. That's very calculating." I raised my eyebrows. "I was an accountant. Calculating is what we do." Over the next month, the house came back to life. I repainted the walls, cream and soft blues, colors I'd chosen, removed the staged furniture, brought my belongings back inside. The jade bracelet went on my dresser. The tax records went back in their filing cabinets. The photos of my husband, of Sarah as a little girl, went back on the mantle. I looked at those photos a long time, tried to see where it had gone wrong, when my daughter had stopped seeing me as her mother and started seeing me as an asset. The district attorney filed charges, fraud, and attempted elder abuse. Sarah lost her law license, pending the criminal case. David's real estate license was suspended. They offered a plea deal, restitution, community service, probation, no jail time. Lisa asked what I wanted. Justice, but not vengeance. Let them rebuild. But they pay back every dollar spent on lawyers, every day I spent in that apartment, every moment of fear. They agreed. Jake moved into my spare room, said he wanted to make sure I was okay, but I think he just needed distance from his parents. We fell into a routine. I'd cook, he'd help with dishes. He taught me how to use a smartphone properly, how to video call, how to protect my accounts with two-factor authentication. I taught him to cook Chinese food, to balance his first real checkbook, to understand compound interest. One Saturday, he asked, "What are you going to do now?" "What do you mean? You won. You got your house back. You proved you're competent. What's next?" I thought about it. The senior center had asked if I'd teach a class on financial literacy for seniors. Basic budgeting, understanding Social Security, avoiding scams. I'd said maybe. Now I said yes. The first class had 8 people, all women, all over 65. I started by introducing myself. My name is Martha Chen. 6 months ago, my daughter tried to steal my house by claiming I had dementia. I fought back. I won. And I'm going to teach you how to protect yourself so it never happens to you. They listened. They took notes. They asked questions. One woman, Nancy, stayed after. "My son keeps asking me to add him to my bank account. Says it'll be easier when I get older. Should I? Do you trust him?" "I want to, but you're not sure." She shook her head. "Then don't. Keep your accounts separate. Give him a medical power of attorney if you want, but not financial. And only if it requires 2 doctors to certify incapacity. Document everything." She started crying. "I thought I was being paranoid. You're being smart. There's a difference." Word spread. The class grew. 10 people, then 15, then 20. The senior center gave me a bigger room. I started a support group for people dealing with elder financial abuse. We met twice a month, shared stories, shared resources, shared lawyers. Some cases were worse than mine. Some were better. All of them mattered. Sarah sent letters. I didn't open most of them. Finally, after 4 months, I opened one. It said, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I destroyed your trust. But I need you to know that what I did wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because I didn't love myself. I was so afraid of failing, of losing everything, that I convinced myself taking from you wasn't stealing. It was survival. I was wrong. I'm in therapy now, trying to understand how I became someone who could do that to her own mother. I don't expect you to respond. I just needed you to know I'm trying to be better." I put the letter in a drawer. Didn't respond. Wasn't ready. Maybe someday, but not yet. Jake graduated that spring. Got a job at a tech company in San Jose. Moved out but visited every Sunday. We'd have dinner, talk about his week. He never mentioned his parents unless I asked. One day, I did ask. "How's your mom? She's okay. Sober now, stable. She asks about you. Tell her I'm fine. Will you ever talk to her?" "I don't know." "Does that make me a bad daughter?" "You're not a daughter. You're a person who was betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you. Take whatever time you need." He nodded. "Do you regret it? Fighting back?" "No." "Do you regret winning?" He looked at me with those serious eyes. "Never." "Good. Because I don't regret teaching you that numbers don't lie. People do." That summer, I turned 71. Jake threw me a birthday party at my house. The people from my financial literacy class came. Miguel from the apartment security brought his wife. Lisa brought champagne. Nancy brought a cake. We sat in my garden, the roses blooming, the hydrangeas finally pruned properly. Someone asked me to make a speech. I stood up, looked at these people who'd become my community. A year ago, I was alone in an apartment, stripped of everything I'd spent a lifetime building. I could have given up, could have believed them when they said I was too old, too confused, too weak, but I knew something they forgot. Your age doesn't define your competence, your circumstances don't define your worth, and your family doesn't define your future. You do, they clapped. I sat down. Jake squeezed my hand. The lawsuit settled that fall. Sarah and David paid full restitution, $200,000 for legal fees, emotional distress, and the violation of my rights. I put half in a trust for Jake, used the other half to fund free legal clinics for seniors facing financial abuse, named it the Elder Justice Project, hired 2 lawyers to take cases pro bono, funded by the settlement and donations. By the end of the year, we'd helped 37 people. Some won, some lost. All of them had someone fighting for them. I still teach the financial literacy class, still run the support group, still answer calls from scared seniors who think they're alone. I tell them what someone should have told me. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Age is not a synonym for incompetence. Your memories are not faulty just because someone says they are. You have rights. Use them. Some nights, I sit in my living room with tea and look at the photos on the mantle. Sarah's graduation, her wedding, Jake as a baby in my arms. I don't feel angry anymore, just sad. Sad that fear made her forget who I was. Sad that desperation made her see me as a solution instead of her mother. But mostly, I feel grateful. Grateful I fought back. Grateful I won. Grateful I can help others do the same. The doorbell rings. It's Nancy from class. She's brought her grandson, wants me to explain power of attorney to him. I invite them in, make tea, pull out my files. We sit at the kitchen table, and I explain. The legal terms, the protections, the red flags. The grandson takes notes. Nancy smiles. When they leave, I clean up the cups, turn off the lights, lock the door, check it twice. Old habits, but good ones. I'm 71. I live alone. I manage my own finances. I make my own decisions. And if anyone tries to tell me I can't, I have Jake's recordings, Lisa's number, and 37 people who will testify that Martha Chen is still the sharpest accountant they know. I am not a burden. I am not incompetent. I am not done. And neither are you.